Hey everyone, welcome to Madcap Mosaic. This is a game I picked up recently. It's kind of hard to describe in text because a lot of its mechanics are so different, so I thought I'd run through a few runs quickly, just straight into the game. Before we start the run, I'll walk you through the screen. The game plays out a little bit like a deck builder of sorts, for reasons we'll see in a bit. So there's some sort of Slay the Spire-like connections there. You're trying to build synergies and think about probabilities and stuff, but it's got a lot of really interesting ideas that I think make it feel like a very different game to play. So this is your mosaic. This is your grid of tiles. I am the Jester's hat in the middle here, and each turn we have a number of moves. You can see I've got 3 moves at the moment, and I can move from where my current position is to another tile, and I will gain the effects of that tile. Lots of other things can trigger, which we'll see in a little bit. Over here is what's going to happen at the end of this turn. So this is the creature that I'm fighting. It's going to attack me for 5 currently, and I'm attacking for 0. And by increasing my defense, I can reduce the amount of damage taken, and increasing my offense, I can increase the amount of damage I do to it. We can also see some creatures have effects. So this one has turned 6 tiles to fog. Fog tiles are tiles like this, so they have no effect. So essentially, this creature has nullified 6 of my tiles, which is not particularly interesting usually for the first round. Sometimes you might have effects that trigger off it. Speaking of which, this is us. Every time you start a new game of Madcap Mosaic, you get given 2 randomized traits. So I haven't seen either of these traits before. This one says basic shields do +1 defense. So right now our shields do 5 defense. If I move on to this one, it'll do 6 instead. So this is pretty good. We'll see. We tend to get rid of the swords throughout the game, but we're going to hold on to the shields for quite some time. So that's quite a nice trait to have. This one is called the Administrator trait, and you start every battle with 3 backtrack. This is really good. Backtrack is very powerful. It connects to lots of tile effects, and it also saves you. So we'll see what backtrack does in a little bit. First off, as you can see, we've got 4 choices here. We can go right, which will do nothing. We can take a sword, north or south, or we can go west and take the shield. I'm going to start by taking the shield. So that's nullified the attack. Now we want to grab some swords. And we want to think, right now, there's not a lot that we can do. So our starting deck is all swords and shields. That's all it is. Obviously, some tiles will be fog because of the wolf's ability. So we're going to take those 2 swords. You can see this added up to 10. So we did 10 damage, and the monster now has 32 HP left. So it's only attacking for 5 again, so we'll do the same thing here. Now, as you move around this grid, we want to be careful because once you've used a tile, you can't use it again. But moving into it still costs 1 movement, unless you have backtrack. So backtrack allows you to move into a tile that's already been used, and it won't cost you a movement. So starting with 3 backtrack is really, really good. And what that means is I can go and take this sword here and get quite close to the edge of the arena, knowing that if I need to, I can always come back the way I've came. So another 10 damage. The first fight's normally not particularly special. So I thought I might reveal some shields up here because we've seen so many swords already. It hasn't happened. I'm going to push my luck one more time. Yeah. So we've only reduced it to 2, so I'm going to take a little bit of damage here. And you can see how each turn slightly different things happen. So this creature has a number of different things it can do. This turn it's defending for 5 as well. Now the way the UI represents this is that our outgoing damage is essentially -5. So initially that's a little bit confusing. It doesn't mean we're going to heal them. It just means that in order to actually start doing damage, we're going to need to reduce the defense to 0. So we can definitely do that. Now this is kind of interesting because I've created this line of drain tiles. If I move right here, I'm really restricting the number of tiles I have available to me. But I also don't want to use this shield either. So I'm going to go north and touch the side of the arena. I need to block for 5 this time, so we can actually finish the fight. So once you finish a combat, we've killed the monster here. It will now show us our grid. The ordering of the tiles here doesn't matter. It's just showing you like where every tile was. But we now have to select 2 tiles to remove from our deck. Now the game has these really nice tips that pop up, and one of the tips that you see early on is that it's best to replace swords initially. And that's because the shields are still very useful throughout the game, but what we want to be replacing are the tiles that deal damage. We want to start replacing them with things that synergize with either other tiles or the abilities we have. So I'm going to choose 2 swords for now, and then we're going to come to the upgrade grid. So this is where Madcap Mosaic gets really interesting. So this is the starting point that we've unlocked on this upgrade grid. And each time we've completed combat, we can click on any 2 tiles that are connected to a tile that we've already unlocked. So right now I can choose to go east, west, north, or south. I can't go diagonally. Now, some of these tiles have question marks on, so we don't know what's going to be underneath here. But all of these other tiles are revealed to us, and this grid we will come back to again and again after our combat. So if we wanted to, I'm not going to spend too long doing that this time because it would make this video very long, but we could really plan out our route here based on the synergies that we see or interesting synergies with our existing tiles. For example, this tile here gives us some more backtrack. So you can see the description of the tile at the bottom. So this gives us +1 movement, so essentially it's free to move into, and 5 backtrack, but we lose all backtrack at the end of the turn. So not just the 5 it's given us, but including our 3 starting backtrack as well. So this could go either way. This tile synergizes really well with a tile which I don't actually see here that does damage based on your backtrack. So what else do we have here? We've got some tiles that I've not seen before. So this tile progresses any tiles that are on cooldown. So you'll see some tiles have a cooldown associated with them. This one reduces that. This tile reveals, so for this tile, when you move onto it, again, +1 movement, so it's a free tile to use. And then you can click anywhere on the grid and it will reveal a 3x3 grid of tiles. So different tiles have different purposes. The puzzle box is really interesting. When you move onto the puzzle box, it turns the 3x3 grid around it into 9 copies of the same random tile. So this can do some really interesting stuff. The upgrade is quite tempting. The smith, actually, given the bonus our shields already have. I think I'm gonna make a choice here just so that we can get going. I'm gonna move here. So the first one that we've got is smog. So this says on reveal, hit for 1 3 times. So on reveal means we don't actually have to use it. As soon as it becomes visible, it will perform its action, which means we could combine it with things like the spyglass and try and reveal it when we're miles away from it. It will still have the same effect. But the one thing I wanted to take was rage. So rage gives a 20% chance for every tile on the board to transform into a flurry. And a flurry tile is a special tile that does 1 damage and gives you 1 movement. So it lets you cover a lot of ground on the board. So we're going to take these 2. Okay, and now we're in our next fight. Now this this fight is really annoying. So the ability that these rats have is occasionally they will take away 1 of your movement. So this turn, this is fine. I'm basically getting a free turn, so I'm going to hit a sword, I think, get some damage out. But next turn, I'm only going to have 2 move. So this is now quite difficult because they're doing 7 damage. Even with my knight trait, I can only block 6 of that. So I need to decide, do I want to full block here, or do I want to get some damage out? And lately, I have not been being too strict with the full blocking. So I will take 1 damage there. So you can see here we use the rage tile, and now all of these other tiles have been both revealed and turned into flurries. So this allows us to think a little bit more about, well, I can go here for a bit of block, and then move on to this tile. This is free because it's a flurry. It gives me +1 movement, and then I can move up to here. So rage is, I mean, again, a lot of these synergies depend on what you personally have unlocked. But I really like rage. We've already got a bit of backtrack, otherwise I would have probably gone for the backtrack ability. Okay, I think we're going to take a little bit more damage. And we know that we can kill them with basically anything here, because they've only got 3 health, so we want to make sure that we block as much as possible. So we get the full block at the end there. Excellent. Okay, so we're still going to remove swords here. There's a tip that says never to remove a non-basic tile. And the point that it tries to make is that even if you think the tiles you've got isn't very good, like we didn't choose this smog tile, we got it randomly. But the point is that you can build towards it, or there might be synergies that you don't expect later on. I usually don't remove shields until a little bit later, unless I have some ridiculous like defense generating synergy going on. So we're going to take out 2 more swords. I'm skipping these tips, by the way, because we're talking and I've seen them all, so I could turn them off, but it's nice. It kind of reminds me of things that I've forgotten sometimes when I'm playing normally. Okay, so we've kind of already begun to build out this way. Something that you can see in the corners is that there are hearts here. This is not the only way, but the main way to heal if you want to heal. So healing is pretty rare compared to a game like Slay the Spire. And so what I tend to do is I do tend to build towards one corner initially, just so if I need to, I can grab a heal. Now, there's a lot of interesting unlocks here, but nothing that massively synergizes with either of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the features that this grid has. If I press enter, I can actually search for a word like backtrack, and then I can see all of the tiles that have backtrack in their description. So this says +1 backtrack per tile used this turn. This one sets your backtrack to 0 along with a bunch of other stuff. Black hole's actually really good. It gives you 3 movement and it shuffles the board. And shuffling the board we'll see a bit later, but then normally shuffling costs 2 movement. So even though it sets all of your stats to 0, it can synergize really well with shuffle-based tiles. And finally, plan escape just gives us a load of backtrack. Now, this tile here, +1 backtrack per tile used this turn. Remember that Rage gives us a bunch of flurry tiles, and those flurry tiles give us +1 movement, which means they're basically free to move into and out of. Well, not out of, but into. So what this means is that I've already begun to build a deck that lets me do a lot of movement in one turn. So having +1 backtrack based on the number of tiles I've moved, that sounds like the beginning of an interesting synergy potentially. So I'm going to clear the search, but the search is really great because there's, as you can see, there's a lot of tiles. There's tiles here that I've still not seen even several hours into the game. So it's really helpful sometimes to just search and see, well, what is on the board. It's still kind of tempting to take Flit, but I think losing all backtrack just doesn't feel good. So I think I'm going to work my way up towards this way, and I think I'm going to grab a burning oil. So we'll work our way towards that, and then I'll explain what burning oil does when we get there. So do we want to take tower or spyglass? Serenade, your offensive and just basically attack. Your attack and the enemy's attack becomes 0. So that's really good for certain fights. We're going to take the spyglass and then go towards the burning oil. Okay, it's more mice. Not a problem. So the one kind of not criticism exactly, but one of the issues I have with the game is that sometimes your starting traits give you this really interesting setup to play with. Sometimes the starting traits give you bizarrely little to play with. Like they might add like some really strange. You can see how much this rage tile is doing for us, by the way, here. Like in one turn, I've managed to move all of these spaces and do 14 damage. So sometimes the traits will give you, they'll add like, you'll start with 3 tiles of a certain type in your deck, and those tiles might not have any particular use initially, which is kind of odd. And sometimes the traits you start with just seem almost like a disadvantage. Not in the sense that they're actually making the game harder to play, but that they would require you to build in such a specific way that if the upgrade tree doesn't have tiles that you need in it, it just feels like, well, this trait's not doing anything, basically. But it's not really a huge frustration. The runs are usually pretty fast. So I think we're still going to remove swords, I think. The rage is giving us a lot of little spots of damage. Okay. So the nice thing about burning oil, so this says hit for 4x. X is initially 1, and every time you end your turn adjacent to the tile, X increases by 1. So that sounds really interesting, and it is. But it's actually surprisingly hard to consistently end your turn next to a tile because of the amount of movement you have. So if you imagine I'm next to this boiling oil pot here, you get 3 movements. So 1, 2, 3. This is not adjacent. 1, 2, 3. This is not adjacent. 1, 2, 3. This is not adjacent. So it's actually really hard to like worm your way back into one of these adjacent spots. Nevertheless, it's really easy to get like at least 1 off, so the hit for 8 is already pretty good. It's better than a sword, and if you can like take your time, and especially with rage, it makes it a little bit easier. Getting it X up to 3 is really powerful, so we are going to take it. Flight, +1 move, save for 1, reusable. That's great. Reusable means what it sounds like it means. It means it won't drain, so we're going to see some use out of that here. Ooh, the spider. Okay. So, one of the things I like about this game is that initially it feels like, oh, okay, I get it. Like the tiles are cards, and I'm building a deck, kind of. But it's it's essentially the same game as a deck builder, but it's just in a different shape. But it completely isn't, because you can do so much with spatial positioning and path making and all of this stuff. So in the fight against the spider, you start out with spider webs on your grid. But each one of these spider webs, it says, while revealed, +1 to your hits. So what that means is that every time I use a sword to hit for 5, I'm currently having that hit reduced by 1, 2, 3, 4. And these webs will stay here until I remove them. And periodically the spider will add more. So I can't just start attacking. I need to get rid of these webs. Fortunately, using the web gives you +1 movement. So it doesn't cost me anything to move onto it, but it is going to cost me stuff to get there. However, if you don't prioritize them, the fight gets real hard real fast. So I'm going to take rid of 1. And I'm actually going to move on to the rage tile here, because this is going to give me little paths to get me to the rest of the spider webs quicker. And you can actually see, just by chance, it's transformed one of the spider webs into a flurry, which is amazing. So that was well worth it. Now I think what I'm going to do here is move down 1, so that use one of my backtracks, and then move across here to do a bit of damage. You can see I've only done 3 because it's being reduced by 2. But this now gives me a path to this spider web here, so I can just zip down these flurries without using any movement. And you can see how hard the spider hit. So in order to block this, I would need, to fully block it, I would need 3 shields, which is all of my movement. So let's see what we reveal on the way down. I think I'll take this shield here. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, that's good. So I managed to get rid of all of the spider webs. Now the only problem is that because the flurries only do 1 hit, the spider webs reduced all of that damage to 0, which obviously sucks. Managed to use another backtrack to move up here, then the flurries got me to here, and I think I'm gonna grab another sword. It's kind of tempting to block the 2 damage, but there's just going to be more spider webs soon, so I need to get some damage on the board. I think with 10, maybe I should have blocked for 1 more. Damage begins to tick up, and remember, you don't get to heal very often, so taking damage is a much bigger deal than in your average roguelike deck builder. Okay, I think the next round the spider might add. Yep, there we go. Okay, so that's web's easy to get to. Oh, okay. Oh, that was not a good route to take. That was a very bad route to take. Oof. 10 damage. 10 damage. Can you believe this? Okay, so we've revealed the boiling oil. You see we managed to stop next to it, but unfortunately the spider's dead. Okay, I took a huge amount of damage that fight. That was really not good. I think I still want to remove swords, nevertheless. Something I haven't mentioned yet, which that tip was just referring to. You can see what fights are coming up. You can see here there's a boss here, the dragon at the end. I have a feeling maybe some of... I don't know if this is a boss, or... I'm not really sure how the bosses work. I fought a boss once, I know that much. But maybe this is a boss? Maybe this is a boss, because it's got the little white things around the outside. This guy does suck, so it would make sense that he's a boss. So it also tells you like how much health you lost to each fight. You can see I really flubbed it on this one. And over time, you get to learn which fights are coming up. So this guy is pretty rough to fight against. To be honest, all of these suck. I hate fighting against all of them. They're really difficult. But it's good fun, as you'll see. There's some interesting designs. So I think we do want this wind walk. And I think we're just going to go straight up and grab it. Boomerang is really nice. So Boomerang, +1 movement, so it's free to move into. Hit for 2 damage, and we can use it 10 times before it gets expired. 10 times per shuffle, it says. So we actually haven't seen any shuffling yet, because shuffling is quite expensive, so I tend not to do it unless I have some kind of card synergies, some tile synergies, sorry. So we're going to take Windwalk. We'll see if this does anything for us. Hopefully it will. Okay. We've revealed Boiling Oil. This sucks. So you can see here, one of the gimmicks with this fight is that periodically this guy will just block for a huge amount of damage. So there is essentially no point in me attempting to damage him this turn, unless I have something like, I've forgotten the name, but there's a hammer tile that reduces the defense of the enemy to 0. But I don't have that. So what we want to do is we want to find as much defense as possible. So we managed to fully defend there, which is nice. Okay, now he's not defending for anything, which is great. I can kind of go ham on him a little bit. What I'd love to do is to end adjacent, but actually maybe I can do that. So that's free. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so I'm going to go here. This is a free. It gives me +1 movement. This uses an attack. This will use a backtrack because I've already used this tile. So it will cost backtrack rather than movement. And then I can move, and now I've got the +1. Okay, so this is another example of a round where I can't do any damage, so I want to try and just use up my defense at this point. Now, I don't think I want to use the Rage because it could transform, well, it's going to transform like a bunch of shields, which I'm going to need, and it also might transform something like the Boiling Oil. So what I might do is, it's tricky. I could use 2 backtrack to get down to here, but that's still kind of costly. So I think I'm going to move on to this tile. This won't do anything for me, but it might reveal some defense. It did. Thanks to my +1 trait, I only take 3 damage. It's still not ideal though. 1, 2. So now I can use the reveal to reveal a chunk of the grid. I'm going to use it here. And then, oh no, shit, that was free movement. God damn it. 2, 3. There we go. So now I've got +16. Now, unfortunately, he's going to defend for 15 here. So we're going to need to... Oh, well, look, this is actually going to work out nicely. So I can backtrack for 1 here, and then go 1, 2, 3. Fully blocks. This gets raised to 32. And now I can do 32 damage, use some backtrack, and finish him off. Perfect. Amazing. So you can see here all these little synergies working out, adapting as the tiles are revealed. Very satisfying stuff. I think I'm still going to remove the swords. I think at this point you have to think, like, are the swords doing anything? So I don't have a tile that upgrades the swords. I don't have any cards that, like, need me to use a lot of individual attacks. The only thing to consider is that I've replaced quite a lot of cards with cards that don't do any damage. So Windwalk doesn't do any damage, Spyglass doesn't do any damage, Serenade doesn't do any damage. So what I might do here is do one of each, remove a shield as well, and try and get some damage back into the deck. Okay. What kind of things do we have going on here? What tiles would we like to see? We can search for the word times. This is sometimes useful if we want to see something that happens with... Oh god, we haven't even talked about enshrining yet. We haven't talked about enshrining, we haven't talked about shuffling. There's so many interesting mechanics here that we can go on to. Let's get a bit more damage in. Let's grab Gouge. So if your last movement was west, in other words, if you move into this tile from the west, or from the east rather, hit for 15, that's very good. And really love a shuffle card, actually. But there are not good ones here. I don't like Dusk at all. So Dusk shuffles the deck for free, but it also drains the tiles that you start next to. So we'll see a shuffle in a sec, but I mean, there's loads of cases in which that would be useful, but I don't particularly want it here. We just need some damage, don't we, really? Let's just grab this random tile here. Momentum. Move forwards twice for free. Don't know if that's good or not. Okay, back with the spider. So we want to do some damage and also get towards the spider webs. So this is a good example of... the game's obviously in active development. I don't know if it's classed as early access, but it's being rapidly updated. So the descriptions of things are sometimes not entirely clear. So Momentum says, move forwards twice for free. It doesn't say whether I will be forced to move forwards. I'm guessing I will. But occasionally you're not sure exactly what something does before you do it. Yeah, so I was moved forwards twice. It has actually used those tiles, so I got the defense, but it obviously wasn't very useful to me. What I want to do is clear out these spider webs, obviously. And because I have this backtrack, I can move around here a little bit and still get all the defense I need. That's amazing. Oh, I still have one movement left. There we go. A bit of damage as well. 1, 2... Ooh. I'm going to block. And then we can clear out the spider web. God, it's still doing a lot of damage, huh? Probably shouldn't have taken 6, but now this is the problem. Oh, this one's going quite badly, actually. I think what I'd like to do now is find Rage and hope that it gives me some paths to traverse this a little bit, because right now I don't have a lot of options. Okay, we're wearing him down. We can now grab these. He's going to add more, isn't he? Oh, Lord. So occasionally you do just kind of, not get unlucky exactly, but like just a lot of my good tiles are obviously tucked away where I can't get to them. I'm really not sure what to do now because I don't really want to go over here, but I'm hitting for like 2 every time. Okay, we can at least... So, because this is such a large hit, it's a hit for 15, it's not affected as much by the spider webs, and that is actually going to kill it. So, again, we took a lot of damage to the spider, but that's okay. Okay. So, there are lots of tiles which, on the face of it, might not seem immediately useful or might have confusing purposes, but they synergize with certain tiles if you're working towards a particular thing. So this tile here is on reveal, hit for 5. So my sword's already hit for 5, but the point is that I don't actually have to move onto this tile to use it. As soon as it's revealed, it automatically applies the hit. So this means that just walking past it will apply the hit, but it also means that it synergizes with tiles like Spyglass that reveal tiles. It might synergize with... there are certain tiles that reveal like half of the board, or reveal the board and then shuffle it, or allow you to move very far, like this momentum tile. So this isn't super powerful, but you're kind of getting damage for free. That's kind of where the power comes from. Okay, we picked up a black hole. Didn't really want that. I wanted to move towards the health, and that was kind of the only option. Okay, this pirate can go either way. I'm a bit concerned we don't have enough damage. Well, we'll see what his ability is in a sec. Let's take the rage now and just try and get some damage out. So the pirate's ability is periodically he will drain tiles that you end your turn adjacent to. So this can be very dangerous. For example, we have the boiling oil tile, which we want to end the turn adjacent to, but if we do that, he will drain it. So I've taken the flurry instead to just grab like a bunch of cheap tiles. And I think what I'm going to try and do is just like stack up a lot of hits, and then what I might do is just shit. Okay, this is fine. So what we're going to see now is we're going to see a shuffle. I'm going to move on to this black hole tile. So black hole is going to remove all of my attack and defense, which I don't have. It's going to use my backtrack, which isn't ideal. Then it's going to reset my movements and shuffle the board. And shuffling the board resets everything. It's as if the combat has begun from the start again. So which means we get to reuse all of those powerful tiles that we've already used. And this is quite nice. We've got this nice boomerang setup here. So, The pirate doesn't have much health. I'm actually just gonna do this. It drains the boiling oil again, which sucks, but we actually have like this +1 defense stuff is helping us win this fight. So normally you can imagine being attacked for 12 if your shields only do 5 is really annoying, but when your shields do 6, it still allows you to get some hits in. So I'm going to reset again, block, and then he's dead. Okay, that was a pretty good fight. We just really need some damaging. Where are some damaging spells? The flail's now not so bad. So the flail does hit for 6 plus the number of times you shuffle. That means every time we use the black hole, flail does more damage. So this could be something we consider now. Who do we have coming up? So the thing with the demon is the demon goes through periods where you have to fully block against him, and then periods where you want to get loads of attacks in. So rage is actually really good against him. I think we might grab a flail, actually. And things like explode aren't as bad now either. So before I wouldn't have wanted to take explode because it drains tiles next to it, but because we have the black hole, we have a way of shuffling for free. So we might work towards that as well. Let's do that. Healing Waters is also okay. So Healing Waters is revealed always, and if you end your turn next to it, you heal 1 HP, which is pretty nice. That was very lucky. We used momentum to move into Gouge, so we're suddenly doing like a bunch of damage against this gentleman. Okay, another attack round. There was no point in me doing that. Don't know why I did that. Another attack round, huh? Okay, so eventually we get this vulnerable turn. This is the turn where we want to do damage. Unfortunately, we've ended up in a bad place for doing damage, but we can get a little bit of damage in here. Okay, if we use Serenade, that sets his attack to 0. And again, we want a bit more defense. We're ending our turn here, so we've healed 1 HP. Pretty good. We use the Rage now. And this Rage will set us up nicely for his vulnerable. So now we can get... these are doing 2 damage now instead of 1, which is really great. So we did 16, which is pretty nice, which means we can easily finish him off now. There we go. Oh no, that wasn't enough. I forgot he had he defends for 5. Well, let's reset. Nice. Okay. It's not a great deck, this one, but it's definitely getting us through these fights. Okay, we said we take Explosion, didn't we? And then maybe now we want another shuffle. Maybe we actually start building towards the other backtrack, even. We could grab this flail as well. Yeah, let's do that. I don't really want any of these tiles, is the only problem. and that's kind of like the quickest way to it. I guess we could get another spyglass, that wouldn't hurt. Next 3 times you save gives you +1 movement. That's a pretty good tile. Okay, it's this frigging spider again. You know the drill by now. We've got to get rid of these cursed spider webs. And this deck just isn't like great against this. So what you want is like easy access to movement. You need to be able to like rapidly move around. We've got a couple of bits and pieces that do that, but it's not designed to do it. You know, we've got the black hole though now. That's kind of nice. So once we do get rid of this, we will be able to get some work done. Okay. Oh, it's really tempting to deal a lot of damage here, but 14 is just too much damage to take, so we're going to have to take any defense we're offered, unfortunately. Alright, we have at least... oh my god. Unfortunately that rage has covered up our black hole, which I was not thinking when I took that. And the flurries aren't doing anything because there's a bunch of spider webs here now. Okay, we finally moved the spider webs at least. Took 7 damage for our troubles though. I don't think there's any way to avoid taking all that damage, is there? Yeah. Okay, well, we killed it. I think we're getting close to the boss now. Is the boss next? Yeah, okay, so we'll be able to show the boss. That'll probably be the end of this run, maybe. We'll take the heal here, and... anything cheap that might help us? Not really. We could take Dusk, actually. Let's take Dusk. I said I didn't like Dusk because it drains the tiles afterwards, so... when you reset, when you shuffle with it, you'll end up back here, and these 4 tiles will be automatically drained. But if we have some backtrack, it's not so bad. Okay, so this is the mid-boss. Defeating this boss gives you 1 point, which I'll show you just before we finish the video. Periodically, this boss will disable 1 direction of movement, which is really bad. Like, I don't know how bad that sounds. It's really bad. Sometimes it just completely destroys you. So right now I cannot move west. West movement is not possible. Other than that, it's a relatively standard fight. You just have to think a little bit more about which direction you're leading yourself in. So having shuffles is also quite useful on something like this. And we've also got some good defense generation, which is really nice to have. No north movement, huh? Okay. Maybe something like this. Okay. So this tile here gives us, every time we activate a tile that generates defense, it gives us 1 movement the next 3 times. So we could move west here to hit for 15. That's quite tempting, because this boss has quite a lot of damage. Or we could move into the momentum, which would reveal like a lot more of this map and get us close to the black hole, which we're missing. I'm gonna take this route because this could trigger the rage, which I don't really want to do. And also we can move the, well, hopefully, unless the boss stops us, we can move right into the momentum turn next turn east, and then grab these 2 defenses. So I'm going to move west instead, and then we just pray that it doesn't do anything horrible. No south movement, so that's fine. So defend, 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 attack, 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 and no south movement. So I thought I would be able to move back into the boomerang, but no south movement, so of course you can't. So now we've got an interesting conundrum, because I'd like to find the black hole at this point, and it could be in this left quadrant here. I can also maybe heal 1 HP here as well, but there's a lot more unopened boxes over here, as well as our other shuffle. So it's kind of, it's a bit of a dilemma which way to go here. I have got 3 backtrack, so I think it's not the end of the world unless they stop east movement. But I don't think they'll have that the next time anyway. Okay. It's not a great turn for attacking, so I think what we'll do is we'll use our backtrack and reset. This is drained, but we don't mind, and then we'll move here. I think I'll take this for next turn. That sounds good. Okay, no west movement, but we've got vitality active, so every time we save, we're gaining movement, which is great. That allows us to put some damage in this turn as well. Do we take the rage now? Maybe not. Ooh, that's good though. 5 backtrack, fantastic, because the vitality gave us so much movement that Windwalk's actually giving us a load of backtrack now. That's really good. Okay, great. Okay, 15 damage. It's not a turn for attacking probably unless we get super lucky. Let's do that, and then we can shoot across here unless it blocks west movement, which of course it has. God damn this boss. Okay, some good attacks. Fantastic. And we can actually end next to the boiling oil here, remove all of the damage, and this increases. No south movement, but that's, I mean, it's not great, but it's okay. Oh, look at that. So we got Gouge, which we moved west into for 15 damage, and we're going to get Explode as well. So we managed to deal 20 damage, even though it started with a big defensive round. Now we can use a couple of backtracks to move here. Boomerang, attack, boomerang, attack, boomerang, defend. That was a good boss fight. That was really good. Okay. Fog you can't get rid of. Now I've forgotten what generated fog. I did something that generated a fog tile. Again, this is sometimes I'm not fully clear on the ramifications of some of these tiles. But basically fogs are kind of like curses. They're like wounds, I guess, from Slay the Spire. So fog doesn't do anything. I can't remove it, and it's just there. Some tiles or traits play off fog tiles, but I don't have any currently. So that's that. I think I'm going to remove... Especially with Vitality, the defenses feel like okay right now. I didn't feel like I had not enough defense there, but so maybe I'll remove one of each. Okay, so we want to move hopefully towards this other black hole, or maybe this flail. So maybe we'll go this way. Oh, we didn't need that cooldown. I might remove that. Okay, I've never fought against this enemy before, so let's see how this goes. We don't have much health left. Charging makes me think that I'd probably best kill it sooner rather than later. So let's get some of that going, shall we? Okay, still charging. I wonder if it's going to do a huge attack. Maybe I'll keep Serenade and end my turn here. There we go. Okay, +2 moves, nearby tiles reset. That's interesting, but it's doing 30 damage. So, perfect time to use Serenade. Thank you very much. Might as well use Burning Oil and then backtrack to reset. Attack. Attack. Grab the Vitality for next turn. Back to charging again. Let's reset. We can move into Gouge next turn. Ooh, this is going to be a tough turn, maybe. Okay, there we go. Just managed to get enough defense there with the +2 movement. And there we go. Defeated. All right. Now we can grab Flail. I forgot to remove cooldown. I definitely should have removed cooldown. We're going to grab Effigy in a sec. I'll explain that next time. So we'll remove cooldown after this turn, maybe, if we survive this combat. Okay, 12 tiles turn to fog this combat. That's really bad. That means 12 of the tiles on this board are now completely useless, and this thing has 107 health and is dealing 16 damage. So As you can probably tell, I also have not fought this particular critter before. This is not the best. Let's fully block and see what happens. Okay. Okay. Doing less damage as time goes on. That's encouraging. Yeah, we'll take the explosion. Oh, I don't really know what I'm doing now. Getting very low on health. Okay, 16 damage. This is going to kill me unless I can find some good defense. Oh, I'm dead. Am I dead? I'm dead. Alright, well, there we go. So, when you die, that's it. No mess, no fuss. But if you defeat a boss or a mid-boss, you gain one of these tokens. If you defeat the end boss, you gain more. I don't know how much more because I've never defeated them. And what I can actually show you now is what these tokens are for. So this is the play button on the menu. This one shows us your past runs. And this is where you access cosmetics. So each of these chests has something in it. I believe they all affect just these 3 aesthetics. Maybe there's other secrets in there, I'm not sure. But there's the player icon, the colored trail you leave behind you, and the icon in the center of the table. So I've got 2 tokens now, which means I can open another chest, which is a nice way to end the video. I'm going to open this one here. And I've got, oh, a new trait unlocked, magnetism. Moving north moves you twice at the cost of 1 movement next turn. Really interesting. I did not know that traits were unlockable in this. Okay, fantastic. Oh, that's really cool. Well, that's Madcap Mosaic. I really like it. It's obviously, it has some rough edges, which I'm sure you can plainly see, but it's also got like just a lot of really nice ideas, and I've had a lot of fun with it. And it's like, it's 5 or 6 quid, probably $8 or something like that, maybe $10. I'm not sure. It's worth a poke. It's really good. Yeah, I want more people to talk about it with. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go play another round. Cheers.